Hello, ladies. Welcome to A Woman's Heart, where we uplift, motivate, encourage, and empower women. We are glad that you are joining us on tonight. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media outlets. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also, ladies, make sure you ask your questions and leave some comments. Join in on the conversation. You are here to be a part of this sisterhood. All right, we'll be on shortly. Check out the website to awomansheart.com. Stay tuned. We're coming up next.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is another episode of To a Woman's Heart, where we are highlighting women in business. Our purpose is to uplift, motivate, encourage, and empower women. And tonight we have a special guest, Miss Sheena Baker. She's a realtor, and I'm just going to put it out there because I know the conversation is going to come up. And we had this sidebar conversation already about what's been happening. The news media as it relates to appraisals in homes and being discriminated against. But I want everyone who tunes in tonight to ask your questions, because to educate ourselves is the best way, to avoid some pitfalls that we could, run into down the line. And Sheena is here with her expertise to give us everything that we need when it comes down to buying and selling property.
Yes.
So don't be scared to ask your questions. So I'm expecting everybody to chime in on this conversation and ask some questions. So I'm going to let Ms. Baker introduce herself and give us a little top line detail about how she got into business and, about the realty business.
All right. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. And like you said, please feel free to answer your questions. Or if you too shy to answer here, send me a direct message and I can answer after the fact as well. But again, my name is Sheena Baker. I'm a realtor with Caremark Realty Group. I've been in business for 14 years. Well, now going on 15 years. I'm a full-time agent. I have an office located in downtown Aurora where I have 2 employees on staff. And so this is what I do all day. As far as how I got into the business, I got I purchased my first home at the age of 19. And that's kind of how I got into it, because everyone would ask me, oh, Sheena, why'd you buy a house so young? Can you tell me how to buy a house? Or just had a lot of questions, and I would refer them to the realtor I used, who was great. But I figured, okay, why not get my license and help those that I knew? And so that's kind of how I got into the business. I went full time at the end of 2013. And then I work with pretty much split half and half, buyers and sellers. I'm one of the top producing realtors in the Chicagoland area. This last year, 2020, I made the cover of Who's Who Chicago Agent magazine. A lot of other accolades that I don't boast and nothing like that. It's just proof in the pudding that this is what we do all day. So feel free to ask your questions.
And that's a good thing, because you know what I've learned over the years, we think we know some things about real estate, and when it get down to it, we really don't know.
Yes.
We don't know where to start, who to contact, what do we do first, how do we go about purchasing a house, and if we have a house, how do we go about selling it? Because there's rules to this thing, and we're not always familiar with what's the first step. Let's on the second. We just need the first step. So can you kind of give us some guidelines? If I'm I'm looking to buy a home, what would be some of the important things that I would need to do in order to prepare myself to be a homeowner?
So to prepare yourself, the first thing, of course, call a realtor if you're stuck. And a trusted realtor. And so I say that because there are a lot of realtors. We joke sometimes that people just get in this business like it's bubble gum. It's just they don't take it serious. So find a realtor that is trusted, great reviews, full time. I would suggest, and not that there aren't any good part-time agents, but if you really, really know you're going to need some hand holding and time in this thing, I would suggest a full-time agent. And then one of the things you need to do is check your credit. And just so you're not shocked, because you're going to talk to a loan officer in this process. And when they tell you your credit score, a lot of clients get shocked. Like, oh my God, I thought I had a 700. Come to find out the credit score was not nowhere near what they thought it was. So I always say, check the free sites like Credit Karma, not that it's going to match your lenders, or like the myfreecreditreport.com. It just gives you a baseline so you're not shocked. So if you, they're going to ask you, do you have anything in collections? Do you have all of these things? They're going to run the credit. But when they ask you those questions, you will now have the knowledge to say, actually, I looked at my credit. I do have this. I do have that. And, for example, medical bills. A lot of people think that they have to pay off all your medical bills. Sometimes when you talk to a lender, they'll say, no, you can write a letter of explanation. We can explain that. Or if it's something else, we can explain that. Or I had a person one time pay off credit cards that they didn't need to pay off because they only look at the minimum payment. So I'll upfront ask all the questions you need before you start to make moves and paying off things and paying for credit repair that you may not need. So just ask the questions. When you get to a realtor and you're trying to buy, we're going to connect you with a loan officer after we ask you some questions. When we connect you to that loan officer, they're going to run an application and get all of that detail and then tell you if you actually can qualify to purchase a property.
Okay, so if you have problems, so say you look at your credit and you do have some things on there that potentially could be a problem for you purchasing a home, how long does it take before you can revisit the home buying process again to clean that up?
It depends on what it is. Like we just had one person get approved. All they needed to do was pay down on a credit card. So they paid down debt. And then the lender deal was called a rapid rescore. So it rapidly rescores your credit report. And that can be done in a few days time. So it depends on how fast that person pays down that debt, contacts the lender back. The lender does a rapid rescore. Now that person qualifies. Now, if it's something that you really need to dispute, it just is going to be as long as that creditor is, takes for you to work with that creditor. It could be 30 days. It could be 3 months. It just depends on how much that you have to kind of work on. Everybody's situation is totally different.
Okay, but you should make sure that you stay within your budget of things you can afford, because people don't understand that you have to consider the taxes, because that's a part of the process, and your mortgage insurance, right? That's a part of the process as well.
Homeowner's insurance. So there's a mortgage insurance and a homeowner's insurance. Homeowner's insurance is like your car insurance. If something happens to your property, hail damage, storm, if you get struck by lightning, or if somebody runs a car into your house, you're covered by your homeowner's insurance. So you need homeowner's insurance. If you're putting down less than 20% of a down payment, you're going to have mortgage insurance. Your taxes, if you're buying a townhome or in a community where it's a association, you're going to have a monthly or annual, or could be a quarterly association fee. These are all the things, though, that your realtor should be helping you understand, and your lender. Once you're approved with us, once you're approved for the mortgage, our lender will give you a payment. Like you're based on your debt to income, you cannot exceed this payment. And when we help, and the lender also helps to run your payments, we teach you how to enter all those things in, because you should understand the payment that you're going to pay. So the taxes, the insurance, the HOA, the homeowner's insurance, all of that is in the calculation. So our clients are really equipped to understand that payment way before we even make an offer.
Okay, so there's a question. With COVID happening now, and you have student loans, does that disqualify you?
No. So the lenders are going to ask you, they'll see it too. Like if your student loans are in default, or if you are making a payment arrangement. Sometimes I've had people have to take it out of default and have it on a payment arrangement. So each person, again, is going to be different. Though that's a great question for a lender. But there's a program that came out the beginning of this year. It's called Smart Buy, and I have a few clients going through it right now, where the state, if you have close to or under $40,000 in student loan debt and you qualify for this particular program, they will pay $40,000 of student loan debt off. And then I have one client right now he owes say 50,000. He's bringing the other 10,000 to the table because you have to have the debt completely clear when you close on your home. So, but they felt like I would rather get $40,000 to pay off this debt from the state, and I'll bring this $10,000 so I can go ahead and just be done with my student loan debt. So it doesn't work if you have $80,000, $100,000 in debt and you can't pay it off at the closing table. But there are, and I wouldn't go through those guidelines with you guys right now. I would recommend, if you want to talk about that, I'll connect you with the lender. It's based on your credit. You have to have, it's a conventional loan. And it's still minimum down payment. You can put 3% down. You just have to qualify for the program.
Okay, so the next question is, what type of programs are offered for the first time home buyers?
So I should have brought a lender on with me. I'm going to answer as much as I can, but I'm not a lender. I'm a realtor. So the difference between realtors and lenders, once you're done with the lender and you find out if you qualify for all these programs, then that's when my team and I take over. So you're qualified for $250,000. They're going to be getting down payment assistance. This is the interest rate, all of this kind of things. We get that from the lender. But just so you kind of know, it's called IDA, Illinois Housing Development Authority. So they offer down payment assistance programs, and there's a couple. There's one you get up to $5,000 in down payment assistance, one up to $6,000, and I think the other is up to $7,500. And then there's the Smart Buy now, where you get $5,000 in down payment assistance, and then they'll pay off up to $40,000 in student loan debt. And that's also a percentage. So all of that, you would need to talk to a lender to get the details of the qualifications. But there are quite a few programs. If you're in the city of Chicago and you're like a police officer or in the fire department or any of that, there's also a grant for $30,000 if you're in certain districts that you stay in, and you'll still have a buyer getting that right now too. $30,000 as a grant from the city of Chicago.
Okay, so here's another question. I live in Aurora, and my husband and I are looking, but why don't any of the homes closer to District 204 have basements?
I know. I live in 204 and I don't have a basement. So I am that person. I live in that one of the neighborhoods that we have a lot of single family houses. We just don't have any basements. So I don't know. And my home, I want to say, is built in the 1970s. If that builder back then, they just didn't offer a lot of basements. But what I do know, because I've had new construction as well, if you get new construction, they ask you, do you want a basement or not? A lot of times back in the day. Now, if you wanted a basement, say that could have been another $10,000 or $20,000. If a person was like, oh, I don't need a basement, then they built the house, of course, without the basement. So I'm assuming that that's what happened, because in a lot of my past, I've had 3 homes that were new construction, and all of those were options back in the day. Now, a lot of times they're putting basements in homes, but if it's an older home, I'm pretty sure that that's why, because back in the day, they used to give those options, where now it's kind of standard to get a basement.
Okay, so here's a question, because I know when you purchasing or you're looking at older homes, they come with unforeseen things that you don't know about. I mean, the appraisal can appraise certain things, but there are some things that's not going to be seen in the midst of the review. So how is that handled?
It's really no, and that's a great question. There is no way around if a home inspection doesn't catch it and you move into the property and something happens. If it's something, so real estate has something called property disclosures. So as a seller, if I go to sell my house, there are a series of questions that I have to answer, and I'm supposed to answer them factually. Mm-hmm. And I'm supposed to say there were no known issues. There were none of this, none of this, none of this. So if I say, as a homeowner, I have no issues, I convey this disclosure to you that says no issues. A lot of times when you get to purchasing a home, your insurance carrier is going to run like a search on that property. So they'll pick up, like if it was a flood in the basement, they should be able to see that claim. So if you're kind of working with somebody that does their due diligence up front and they find a past claim, they'll tell you, hey, this property that you're buying, just so you know, it had a flood claim on it, just so you know. Then that gives us an opportunity to go back, say, hey, seller, you didn't tell us about this flood that you guys had back in 2010. What happened? Then they can explain back like, hey, this is what happened, and kind of go through that. So it's a part due diligence. Part is your home inspector, just having a good home inspector that kind of goes through everything and looks through that property. But it's certain things, of course, like you said, they can't check. They don't live there. Mm-hmm. You try to check everything, all the major mechanicals, the roof. I've had people say they have plumbing issues after the fact. At your inspection, you're welcome to have a plumber come. You get a due diligence period. If you're feeling any type of way, it's going to pay for that, but you can pay for an electrician to come out. You can pay for a plumber to come out if you want an actual licensed professional on top of that appraiser to come out and take a look at things. You could do that as well. Most people
I never knew that. I
Yeah.
never knew. I never see. I always thought when you're looking to purchase a home, the only person that was allowed to come to look at the house or the apartment or whatever it may be was the appraiser. I never knew that you were able to bring in a plumber or electrician. And I think if people was aware of that, they can avoid a lot of pitfalls
Oh
when it
yeah.
comes down to buying homes.
Yep. So your first 5 days under contract, you get to have a home inspection, and that is your period to have anybody come in, take a look at everything, give you a report on what they've seen. So if you even while your home inspector is there and you're like, man, I thought there were some electrical problems, I want to bring in a licensed electrician to also be there and take a look at the electrical situation here. The electrician can come in, write up everything, tell you what's wrong. The inspector can do the same thing, and at the same time, your attorneys are saying, hey, this is what we found. And you're going back and forth to negotiate with the seller.
Okay, but what happens? Because I have a friend who had this happen to her. What happened if you purchase a house and everything was done the way it should, but nothing was actually reported that happened in the house? And then you moved in and you found out all these little issues was going on inside the house. What happens then after the fact?
If it only thing you can do is go to small claims court. If it's found that the seller did not disclose it, but then you
Hmm.
have to prove that. How do you know they didn't disclose it?
Right.
The way to usually know that is if there was a past claim on the property that your insurance rep could find. So if you don't have any proof, you can't prove if this was something that they had an issue with prior to. You're going to pay a lot in court costs. So a lot of times, if it's not a big enough issue to take a person to court, people kind of just pay for the fix and let it go. Otherwise, you got to pay attorneys and get everybody involved to go sue that person for the damages.
So is it best to buy a single family home or a town home? What's the best when you're your first time home buyer, or do it just depends on your what you want?
It depends. I just had this question today from someone. It depends, or yesterday actually. It depends on what you want. So people who don't want maintenance at all, like they don't want to deal with the snow, the lawn care, your exterior maintenance, which means like if you need new siding, the association will put the siding on, they'll put the roof on. Like that is done all by the association. That's a monthly HOA due, which is
Hmm.
homeowner association dues. If you don't want to deal with all that stuff, you might want to do a townhome or a condo. If you are okay with your own yard, you want your space, you want your backyard from your neighbors, then you want a single family home. There is no right or wrong. They both build equity. So it's not a right or wrong to it. It's really a personal preference.
So if you purchase a townhouse and they find, because I know some townhouses are connected with one roof. So if the townhouse on the left has roof problems and the townhouse on the right don't, how is that managed?
So that's a duplex. So if you
Okay.
both are not an association and you're duplex connected, and
Hmm.
so you have to both talk. So that person, if that's on your left side, say for example, if they're having an issue, they can contact a roofer and fix the issue. Now, if the roof needs to be replaced, both of you should be replacing it at the same time. If you're a duplex, you're not paying the HOA due. You're just it's like a subdivision of homes that both uh, buyers live in the homes and they're attached, but there is no HOA fee to pay for those things. So you decide if your siding needs replaced. Typically, you decide together so you can get the same color, the same roof, that kind of thing. If you're connected and you have an HOA, the roofs all are changed usually at the same time. So if you call and report in a claim like, "Hey, I got water coming through my roof," your HOA is going to send somebody out to fix that, and then your neighbor may not need anything yet. But usually, the all roofs are changed at the same time. So if it's coming up for brand new roofs in another year, everybody's roof is going to be replaced. But in the meantime, your HOA will fix that particular issue. So that could have been a shingle came off anything could have caused that to you to start having some issues. They should send somebody out.
Okay. So here's the question. What is the market like right now for purchasing a home in Aurora District 204 or close to?
The market everywhere, I will not say just 204, but the market everywhere is no inventory, very no to low. It's some inventory, but as soon as it pops up on the market, you got to get out there and see it like the same day. Otherwise, it's going to have multiple offers, and that's not just Aurora. So in comparison, just to give you guys numbers, if you looked at the inventory last year, this time, and this year, it's about 57% down. meaning there's 57% less inventory right now than it was last year. So you have all these buyers out here with this 2.25% interest, 2.5. The interest rates are historically low, but there's not enough sellers selling right now. And we as realtors, we hope it's going to open up in March, because this is it's very hard to find something without it being 10 people bidding on the same property. They're bidding 10,000 and plus over asking just to get the properties. There are buyers doing as is, waiving inspection. They don't even want an inspection, or they're doing anything because they have to have property. Their leases are up, so they're kind of in a bind. So you can, to answer your question, you can find the property. It's just you have to have a strategy, and you have to be really just quick on your feet to go see it and understand what the other offers are, so you know what you're competing against. And we don't know that offer on the other end, but I can tell you from being a listing agent, a lot of like what people are offering, and kind of to tell my buyers, like, if you want this house, this is kind of what you're going to have to do.
Is this because of COVID?
I don't even know the reason for this right now. I'm like, I don't know if people just are not, everybody wants to move because they're stuck in the house for this last year, over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
Finding out you got to work from home, your kids are homeschooled, you're out of room. So that's one issue. The second, I feel like the inventory loss is because some of the homeowners did like a forbearance, where through COVID, if you lost your job, a lot of the mortgage companies offered a relief that you aren't paying your mortgage right now. Now they're going to have to pay that back, but they're not paying mortgage. So why would they sell their home if they're on a COVID mortgage relief right now? So I think that's part of the issue as well.
Okay. So here's another question. Is it better to purchase a foreclosed home? Are those harder to get approved for?
So foreclosed homes, if you can find one, because not a ton of those on the market, but if you can find one, it just depends. They're not, to me, if you're looking at price point, they're not like back in the day where it used to be like you got an amazing deal. So if you get 10,000 less on the property for buying a foreclosure, that's a as is property. Meaning if something goes wrong in our inspection, the seller, which is the bank, they're not going to give you anything. They might give you like closing cost credit, but they're not going to fix any repairs. So it's not a better, it's just to me, it's the value. And if you're okay with buying something that going into it as is, it's an as is purchase.
So that means you need to have some money stored away for the as is problem.
Yes. When you get into your point earlier, when you get into the property, now that's when you're going to see everything, because it's been vacant most of the time. So the disclosures are all going to be like NA, meaning the bank has no idea what was wrong with this property. So they can't give you any, advice if it's, damages or not. Your home inspector is going to try to see as much as he can. But if there's anything, once you live there, it's really nothing you can do anyway. But going into it, just know it is an as is property.
Okay. So since we're sitting in the middle of COVID, and since mortgages have been pushed back where they don't have to pay, what's going to happen to those homeowners who have had their mortgages pushed back, but they still cannot play catch up?
Yeah, and there's no definite rule yet, and that we've heard. We've heard some, may be putting it on the back end. Some you might have to go through a process of, maybe a modification where you have to explain the hardship and show the proof of the hardship. So that's my concern, because some people that did this forbearance, they do not have any hardship. They just did it because it was available. So if you can't, I don't know how they're going to handle it if you can't prove that you had a hardship.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them are wanting payment. Like if they gave you 6 months, they want the payment at the end of the 6 months. So, there is everybody doesn't know exactly what's going to happen.
So what you're saying is, if my mortgage was $1,000 for 6 months, after that 6 months, I need to come up with $6,000, correct?
Depending on your mortgage company and what they told you. So when they go to do that forbearance and sign, and they usually clicking fast because everything is online, if some verbiage was in there on how you have to pay that back. And so if you're not sure and you are one of those sellers that is watching this, I would suggest call to figure that out. And if you might want to take yourself out of forbearance if they're going to request it at the end of your term, if you really know you didn't need it.
And you made a valid point that we don't pay attention to, because somebody offers us something on a plate and we think it's going to save us on the back end. What we fail to realize is the small print that catches you up. And then when you get to the point you have to pay this money back, you don't know what you have signed. And then you'll be caught in a rock in a hard place because you done put your John Henry on something thinking you're saving yourself, and you done put yourself in a trick bag.
Exactly. And you made it worse for yourself, because there are other options besides forbearance that people could have done if you lost your job, if you need it, or if you got downsized and you got your hours cut. There are a bunch of different options through the mortgage company. To me, that should be discussed, not just forbearance. Like, give me all of my options, understand the details of those, and then pick one. And not just go through online as soon as that pop up. Do you need forbearance? Yes. Don't do that. Like, get the facts before you just start clicking away.
Is there a better way to set yourself up so if emergency happen? I know we have homeowners insurance, but homeowner insurance is just to cover for maintenance of the house, right?
Yes.
So is there anything else that you can set yourself up for emergencies when you're a homeowner?
Right. So the homeowner's insurance, that is only if there was damage to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you can call your, whatever your insurance company is, to say, hey, I need to report damage, something that happened to my house. Now, other things like your furnace or your AC going out, or plumbing issues that could happen, anybody could have. Right now, I'm sure there's a lot of homes with bursted like pipes because of the cold weather. So for that, I tell buyers, if you're buying a house, you should have some money saved. So you shouldn't be using your last to buy a house. So, I think at least 3 to 4 months, or at least 6 months in some cases, a mortgage payment, but at least 3 to 4 months of a cushion. And that's your nest egg. If something, to me personally, if I lost my job and I need to find one in a couple of months, or if something happened, I could pay for it. We also do, whenever we are writing offers, sometimes right now we got to take them off because it's so competitive, but we put a 1-year home warranty on every single contract that I write. And that just covers, so if something happens when you're in there for the first year, your stove breaks, your furnace, your water heater, anything that happens inside the property, you can call and pay a deductible. And the company we use is $65 deductible instead of paying $200, $300, depending on what happened. You pay that $65 deductible, they fix it or replace it. And that's the first year. Now, you could keep that going each year. It's like $580 if it's a single family house, like $550 if it's a townhome. So to me, I have it on my home. So I pay this $580 a year, and I make sure if something happens, I can pay that $65, deductible.
That's a trusted homeowner warranty company, right?
Yep, warranty company. I know it's a lot. Homeowners insurance, mortgage insurance, home warranty. But yes, it'll start to make sense once you get in the process. It sounds like a lot up front, but it's just another coverage for the internal part of your property that it just, it's $580. But if something breaks, it could cost, as I don't know if wherever we live, if something happens, your plumbing, that could be, just to get them out, sometimes $200 charge. And it's like, you don't know what's happening yet. So that could be another $300 by the time they leave your house. You didn't pay $500 just in that one visit versus a deductible. So right. To me, especially if you're tight on funds, like pay that deductible and get you a 1 year a policy and just keep it up each year.
So is there a limit on age to being a homeowner?
No. A lot of people think that, but no. So we work with a lot of seniors, and the reason why is because if you're renting somewhere, each year your rent goes up. Mm-hmm. And so when I get this question from seniors, I just pose it like this: like, I will help you either way. I'll help you find a rental, or if you want to stay, or if you want to try to buy, because your rent is going to keep going up. And can you afford it? Because half of the time you're on a fixed income as a senior. So can you afford the rent to continue to go up? If you buy a home, you know where your mortgage stands. Only thing that could go up is property taxes, but you can kind of see the history of property taxes. And once you hit 65, there's a senior exemption. If you make a certain dollar amount They do a senior freeze where they
Hmm.
freeze part of your taxes. There's so much more that is offered when you're a homeowner to kind of freeze things once you're a senior than in a rental. Your landlord is going to want his rent, and that's not going to care that you're a senior. He's going to want his rent, and he's going to want the increase the next year.
Right. Right. So if you're a senior and you said they're on a fixed income, like they're on a social security check or whatever, they are still able to purchase a home.
Oh yeah, all the time. We get it all the time. You use your pension or your Social Security. That is your proof of income. So
Oh,
and it shows. So the lender's going to look at that as income. Also, I've had a lot of clients if they're on total disability, they buy homes because your disability pay is considered income. Child support is considered income. So if you have court orders documented where you have this money coming in, that's considered income.
oh, okay. That's good to know. I
Yeah.
thought it was an age cap on being a homeowner when you get a certain age. I was like, oh,
No. It's just finding that property that fits your budget. And sometimes that's hard, especially right now with such a competitive market to try to find something that's a smaller price point if it's a smaller price point. But some people, you retire depending on how long you've been on your job, you might get a nice pension in retirement. So it might, they might still find a decent property that is not like, where they're struggling to find like a low income property, which that's hard to find. But it's definitely doable. We do it all the time. Well, I don't do it. I'm not the lender, but the
right,
the loan
right,
officers work with it all the
right.
time.
I see they have a lot of senior communities that they have homes that's being built from the ground, that they're doing a lot of, because they have some out here in Bolingbrook they're doing.
Yeah.
So,
And those
yeah.
were popular back in the day. Caroline, that's still popular community, 55 and up.
Hmm.
So there are 55 and up communities throughout. So like Bolingbrook, Oswego, I think Plainfield has some. Um, but that is a popular as well if you want to be in a
Okay.
55 and up community. They have like clubhouses that have activities for seniors. So if you like bingo or different things they do to get together to keep each other, not just well now they can't do anything, but
Right.
each other going and seeing their neighbors and friends and things like that.
So, do you deal with like apartments and industrial property and all that stuff? You.
So yeah, so I don't deal with a lot of apartments, but I do some rentals. I'm more heavy on the sellers and buyers. Um,
Hmm.
some rentals, depending if it's residential, meaning a townhome, single family, those I can help with. Apartments, we usually don't have access to that kind of stuff. So I'll just recommend, like, hey, if you're looking in Aurora, for example, where I live, here are a couple of apartment complexes that I know of that you could go into and talk to. But we don't do a lot of apartments. Commercial, I do some commercial as well. I am certified in commercial, but just the main clients that I deal with for sure are residential.
Okay. So, the question is for those preparing to list and sell their home, what are quick upgrades that can be made to increase the value and create more interest for purchasers?
So kitchens and bathrooms are the biggest. So if you're, well, it depends. So the first thing, if your kitchen is completely outdated, like if you have mismatched appliances, that's one of the biggest things I'll point out. So I just have a list and we went live, and they had stainless steel everything, but the refrigerator was white. So my suggestion was change the refrigerator to stainless steel so everything can match. And then instead of replacing the countertops because maybe that's expensive, just repaint the whole house like a fresh coat of paint. That
Hmm.
brightens up the house a ton. If the cabinets are super old and you can tell, you can get your cabinets painted. So it just depends. I would say contact a realtor to come and assess. There's nothing wrong with having us come by. It takes us 15 minutes to walk through your home, give you some tips on what you can do. A lot of times we're going to say paint, carpet, those are the biggest, and then any kind of upgrades into the bathrooms or kitchens. And upgrades can mean changing the light fixtures. Um, Sometimes with tubs, paint like I can't think of the name of it now, but they can kind of coat
The
paint your.
ceramic
Yeah,
part,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep. So you can do that sometimes for cheap, or replace the tub if it's that damaged where you just need to replace the tub out. Sometimes putting new handles on uh, cabinetry will make it look better, and that's a really cheap fix. But lighting, handles, paint, carpet. So those are the biggest things that you can do. Once you have fresh paint and fresh carpet, everybody loves that because it makes the home look completely refreshed.
Right. What about I've seen some homes that had color rooms. So I thought it was best to have all rooms that were white walls.
No. So those now, well, it used to be, but now
Okay.
you feel like it's an apartment. So they don't want the all white when you go to paint. So I get that because I'm like, people send me colors like, okay, which one, this or this? So now the grays are in. It could go really, really light. It doesn't have to be like, I don't know if you can see my background. My
Mm-hmm.
is a gray. It's a very light gray. Some people still love beige, but I would say if you do beige, do it a really light beige, like not where it's, looks too brown. But make it a neutral color throughout your property. And that, especially if you have white baseboards, that will
Mm-hmm.
make your baseboards pop. So you definitely want a color, but a really neutral color. So don't do white. So yeah.
Okay, so here's a question. The kitchen interiors are so small. Oh my God.
I can't see the comments. I'm like, I want to know that person.
So they also asked about resealing the tubs too.
Yes, so that's what I was just saying. You can reseal the tub, but I would price that because what if you reseal it and they tell you it's $200? If you could find a tub that is a decent price tub, and if you have a handyman or a contractor that can replace the tub, you might as well replace the tub. Sometimes the tubs aren't really expensive; it's the labor. So it depends on who can replace that tub for you. But so yeah, so I would price both out if you're trying to look at which one. You can't change a kitchen from being too small. So otherwise you're getting into construction. And I mean, we could recommend that and say, okay, you should knock this wall down or do this and that. But typically a seller is not wanting to do all that. So we're trying to tell you these are the least expensive things you could do to get your property on the market and sold. And right now it's a seller's market. So I mean, if you are thinking about selling and you're like, this is the time to get your top equity out of the property, for sure.
Okay, so it's a question. What counties have the lowest property taxes?
I wouldn't say, it depends. Cause like I sell in Cook County too. There are certain parts of Cook County that's super expensive. And then there's certain parts where like I just ran one the other day that the taxes per year in Chicago and the Austin area for this single family house was $2,000 a year. So it's all over the map. If you're looking at school districts, usually the higher the school district, the higher rating the school district, the higher the property taxes are typically. So that's kind of usually how that works as a rule of thumb if you're looking at that, because you'll be able to see it from the tax bill what you're paying those taxes are going to. There's usually the schools.
So when you're purchasing a house, you have to consider the cost of the house and the property tax. That's
Correct.
how you.
Yeah, that's how you calculate your payment. So if you are trying to figure out a payment and the house is $275, the taxes are $6,000. Your homeowner's insurance per year is $1,200. You put all of that into what's called a mortgage calculator, and it'll
Mhm.
spit you and your interest rate, and then it'll spit you out what your payment is per month. So yes, those are all things that go into that, and your mortgage insurance. So those are your principal, your taxes, which are annual, your mortgage insurance, your homeowner's insurance. Those are the four things that make up your mortgage payment.
Okay, so
If you have a townhome with the HOA,
what is it? 30 years,
you could
15 years?
do 30, you could do 15, you could cut it as short as you want to as far as payment wise.
Mm-hmm.
Of a payment you want. If some people want like have goals to pay their house off in 15 years, they may want a 15, 20-year mortgage. Some people in 30, they'll do a 30 and they'll just make 8 extra payments per year. Like if you get a bonus or something, they may do a couple extra payments a year, or at least one payment a year. I know it reduces 7 years off of your mortgage. So your 30 years, it takes it down by 7, just by one extra payment a year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. So there's something called amortization that
Mm-hmm.
a lender can help you with too. If you're in a property and you're good, you're not trying to move, but you're just trying to pay your mortgage off, ask your lender, or if you don't know one, I can connect you to one. But they plug it in based on when you bought it, your interest rate, what you still owe on it. If you were to pay, say you said, I want to pay an extra $400 a month, how will that affect paying it off. They can calculate that for you and tell you.
Yeah, because sometimes you want to do the third year because it's economically feasible for your budget.
Yep.
But in your mind, you figure like I want to pay it off in 15 years, but right now I'm not in a place where I can pay it off 15 years, so I go to the 30 years. But it's good that to know that you can
Oh yeah.
pay extra months of your mortgage
Yeah.
and pay your house off quicker. I didn't know it would take off that much.
Yeah, just by that one payment, 7. So imagine if you were deliberate and you talked to a lender and came up with your plan on what to pay every month. So even if, say, you've been in the house 10 years and you didn't do it, but now you got 20 years left and you're trying to figure it out, talk to a lender. They can help you figure it out. How much more, if I want to pay this off in another 15 years or 10 years, how much do I have to pay each month to get there? So that's something that's available. Most of the mortgages now, none of them have a repayment penalty. Back in the day, they used to, but a lot of them now it's no penalty to pay it off early.
Okay, but as you get older, when you cross a certain age, you do get some perks and some privileges, right?
Oh yeah, that homeowners exemption for the seniors that I told you when you're over 65, and then if you're on a fixed income, check the county. Each county is different, but they're going to say, so look at the senior section when you go to the assessor. So say you live in DuPage County for where I live. If you go to DuPage assessor, if you get confused, call. But because some counties like where Elmhurst is, that's like York Township. So you got to go to the York Township assessor. If you're in Will County, you might have to go to the specific assessor for Romeoville. Or so if you don't know, contact the main county and they can kind of direct you. When you get to the proper website, this is all public information. It'll have a section for a homeowner's exemption. If you need to qualify as a homeowner and to get that reduction of your taxes, this is what you need. If you are a senior and you're over the age of 65, this is what you need to do. If you have under $30,000 a year in income or whatever they say it is, this is what you need to do. Do those things to get you that lower taxes. If they freeze it, so all of that is available every single county. If you're a veteran and you have 70% or more disability, I think it's 70%. A lot of here in Illinois, your taxes can be completely exempt. So if you're living in a property, you do not pay property taxes if you have 70% or above. And a lot of veterans don't know that or then go through that. So you can always now apply and contact your assessor to kind of get that too. So there's discounts for veterans. That section, when you get to that part of the assessor's website, is going to tell you all the different things you can get to lower your taxes. You can appeal your taxes if they're way too high and you see the property value, it has gone down in your area. You can always appeal taxes. If you purchase the property and they're saying that the property is worth this, but you just had an appraisal that says, no, it's not worth that, it's worth this. I have an appraisal to prove it. Send that appraisal on in. They'll review it when they review annually. They'll review it. And then if they determine you're right, you should pay lower taxes, let's go ahead and reduce your taxes. There's so many things. People just have to know where to go get that information and actually act on it. What we talked about earlier before this this live, like it's right. Like we talk about it, but go get the detail and act on it.
Okay, so here's a question, because I've always wondered this. There are frame houses, there are brick houses, and there's different prices for those houses. Why is that?
Because brick is more expensive than siding. And I work with a builder. So I have a builder right now I work with in Oswego. So we have, we put the regular siding up on the single family home. That's included as a standard option. If we need to add brick to re-brick that whole front, it's about $7,500. So the brick is expensive. The siding, none of it is not like it's not. None of this is cheap, but that's an upgrade. So as you're building, those builder costs, if you were to do brand new construction, it would be the same thing. If you had a house right now, you like, I just want to re-brick my front. You'll see when you start to price these out with those companies, how expensive it is to add brick to a property.
So how difficult is it to get a house built from the ground?
It depends. So if you find a new construction community where they're already building, you will usually go in with us. So we have to register you as our client. And people think you don't need a realtor, but it's certain things you don't know that you should be looking like. People are asking questions right now. So You don't know what you don't know. So the builder's representative is there to represent the builder. You bringing your own agent in, you don't pay for your agent when you're a buyer. The builder pays us. So we come in with you to kind of make sure those questions are being answered, make sure you understand there's a deposit when you buy new construction. Some communities will take $3,000, some communities won't $10,000. So when our clients sit, hey, Sheena, I saw this new construction community, we have a list of questions. My team and we contact them and ask them that series of questions. What is the deposit? What are the anticipated taxes? Because at first you will not know what your taxes are going to be. So you're going to, because they don't know, it's not assessed yet. So a year from now, you thought, oh, I have this great mortgage payment, and now it's increasing because your tax bill comes out and now your taxes are assessed. So you need to know going in, if in a year your taxes are going to be $8,000 or $6,000, that could make a difference on your budget. So we ask those questions up front. We ask what's standard in the builders community. So what are included, if they are saying 30-inch cabinets, laminate countertops, vinyl floors, and the base price is $285, and you're like, man, that's my max and I hate all the options. There's no point in even going to see that, because when you just change it to granite countertops and nicer floors, they give you all these upgrades before you get out the door. You're at $350,000. So it's, so those are the things you need to know. Now, if everything's included in that subdivision and they're like, hey, we got all of these things, our standard options, you're great. So you just have to know what questions to ask. So, but anybody can do brand new construction. It's just, do you have the deposit? A lot of times they make you use their lender to get any incentive that they offer. So that's one of the questions we also ask, because what if you know that you have some credit challenges and you got to work with this one lender that can help you? You probably don't want to do new construction, because the new construction lender might not be one of the lenders that can work with, kind of different challenges.
I did not know that you had to have a deposit for new construction.
Oh yeah. I had one that just closed last in January. He had to put a 10 grand deposit down before they began building. My builder, we do 3,500 for the deposit. But it's the same as earnest money. When you're buying a property, you put up earnest money. But construction, some depends on the site. Some of them want a hefty amount of a deposit.
So what happens if you put that money down and you decide, I changed my mind? You lose your 3,500 or your 10,000?
Yeah, if you just change your mind, you're always going to lose your money. If there's a reason, like you lost your financing, something has to happen contractually that allowed you to break that contract. You can't just walk away. That's any deal, if it's new construction or not. And you're just like, oh, I saw a house that popped up on the market around the corner I like better. I want to cancel this deal. You've lost your earnest money, because contractually that is not a way to get out.
Okay, so because there are individuals who have rented for like 15, 20 years. So just give them an idea. If you had rent an apartment or a house for 15 or 20 years, how much could you have paid for your house in probably 10 years?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the amount. Maybe I'll just go off from the top of my head. But I have a friend of mine who I helped them rent a property back in probably 2009. And then they were there that long until a couple of years ago. And then the landlord decided, I want to sell my properties because now everything is selling. So now they want to sell their property, right? So we did the numbers. I'm like, so how long you been here? I think it was like $146,000 in rent that they had paid. And I'm like, you could have paid down your own property. So you are basically funding that landlord's future. So when he goes to sell the house, he's gonna owe $146,000 or what? Not with interest, but he's gonna owe way less on the property. Now he has equity. Now he sells it and makes a killing. All that time you rented, so you didn't make anything. So even for when I'm really honest with my clients, like for me, I bought the house that I live in now. I bought new construction. I love new construction, but this was a smart buy. So when I bought it, I was divorced. This one was a good deal where I could come in, update it, and I knew I was going to have instant equity. Right now, if I sold it, I could at least make at least $100,000, and I've only been here 5 years. So to me, real estate is investing. Like, it is truly, you have to live somewhere. Why don't you invest in where you live? You can get the tax write-offs. Like, I don't have children, so this is a tax break to me. The interest that you're paying and most of your mortgage payment is interest. So that's all tax deductible. Part of your taxes are tax deductible. So you get refunds. You get so many benefits by being a homeowner. Then people will say, oh, Sheena, I don't want to get stuck and locked into a 30-year mortgage. People sell their homes all the time, just like you move from your rental, you sell your home and you move out. If you decide, hey, I can't afford it, you lost your job, or you get married or divorced or whatever, you're not locked into a mortgage. You can sell your property.
Okay, so here's the question. What is a good county where you think you can get the more bang for your buck?
If you like larger properties, uh, more bang for your buck. A lot of my clients are like in Montgomery, and that's Kendall County. That is you get a bigger property for not less, because nothing is, I will always say nothing is cheap. But it's usually further out. So if you're coming out, like if you this Aurora area and you're coming this way, so Oswego, Aurora, Montgomery, those areas, you get a larger home. North Aurora. If you're going south, you might be in Richmond Park, Matson, University Park, some of those like Olympia Fields, you could find deals sometimes, but sometimes you got to watch the taxes. So if the taxes are higher, because some of the communities just have higher taxes, it just, when you say bang for your buck, how big of a property do you want?
It's about square footage, right?
Correct. Yeah. Because, in certain areas, they just don't have a huge homes. So if you really want like the Bellwood area where I grew up, the homes are not, huge. They're decent sized homes. They were fine for us growing up, but they're not your 3,000 square feet type of homes. That's just not that neighborhood.
They have big homes, but the closets are horrible. They're horrible.
Yep. Yeah. They're very small. The closets are small. They didn't give a lot of space, but a lot of them are just in their older homes. So if you want a bigger home, a newer constructed home, you're usually gonna have to drive out farther to get that.
Okay.
So south or west.
Okay, so this is my niece asking these questions
Okay.
because she is looking to purchase property for her and her husband, and she has one child, but she also wants to be in a good school district for her kids. So she's looking for the things that she's been asking about. Because he told me, tell her it's me.
Okay. I was like, who is this? I want to know her. Okay. So usually when that happens, I'll tell the person, like, because it is like, say if you're like, I don't know where I want to live. You got to have some kind of starting point. And if you have no clue, like, we can kind of like, usually if someone calls me like, hey, I like Aurora, I'm not sure what's around it, I'll pull up the map, because as we go to put your search in, I'll say, okay, around Aurora, and I just start naming off towns. And then they can kind of say, wait, I don't know, where is that? Or I kind of can help you understand where I'm talking about directionally. And then when we hang up, even though I set the search up, do your research. So if I say, hey, I think if you like Aurora, North Aurora might be good, or Batavia might be good, or if you like Bellwood, Hillside is good, because it's the next option around it. But if you're not sure what Hillside has to offer, don't take my word for it. Google Hillside, learn about Hillside, go drive the communities, look up the school districts, greatschools.org, and that can give you ratings on any of the schools. So those are things you should be looking at if you're trying to kind of narrow it down. Distance from work. If you're going to, at some point, everybody's going to go back to work if your company, has you return and you're driving. So I wouldn't base it off of working from home right now. Base it off of your commute, because as we know, with the snow, it gets crazy. So kind of figure it out that way and kind of work yourself backwards. Once you pick a bunch of the towns and you start to look up the school ratings, as for your niece, and she sees that the school ratings are low and she's not wanting that for her children, that's how you can kind of like, not that town, not that town. These are my final picks. That's probably the most helpful. And then go drive the areas and see if you like the neighborhoods.
I think she's more comfortable with the district that she's familiar with, because she know what it entails, and she probably want to stay, Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, probably want to stay in that certain area because she's very familiar with the district. She know how the teaching is, and she know the structure of the district. So But at the same time, you still want to get somewhere where it's going to be adequate for your family at the same time. So that's
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of,
So
yeah.
if it was it her for 204?
Yeah.
Okay, so 204. So it depends. So it always comes down to your pre-approval amount. So in 204, there's tons, but as you know, if you live out here, the prices are all over the map. You could find something that is low 200s and or lower and up to $300,000-$400,000 plus in 204. So based on what price points you get approved from, and when we set up a search and you start to see these are the homes in my price point, I don't like any of these, that is what will sometimes make you go out of that school district. So then for her, I would say, okay, what about school district 308, which is Oswego? It's the next town over. What do you think about that? Or school district 202, that's Plainfield School District. There's 203. So there's a couple of them that are surrounding. You just will have to do your research.
Okay. She said, but she need a basement.
You need a basement.
She
Might want Montgomery, because Montgomery is, you get more of a bang, but then that's like off of Orchard and 30. For her, everybody knows what I'm talking about. The rest of you probably like Orchard and 30, but those are a little bit bigger homes. School district is still good, but they have basements. Aurora does have basements. What's sticking out to me for her is probably a part of Aurora where it might have 308 school district, but it's still Aurora, but it's 308. It depends on her price point though. So I usually can tell. So if you want to reach out to me, kind of tell me about your situation, I know this area like the back of my hand, so I can kind of tell you which areas would probably be sufficient.
Okay. Denise Barlow, she knows your name now. And Sheena said, call her.
Yes, I'll help you. I'll help you kind of narrow it down.
She'll help you narrow it down.
It's hard though. I won't lie. Like clients would be like, I don't know, just set it up for Will County. I'm like, no. I'm like, you got to go research this some more and come back. Give me at least a part to start to help you, because you don't want me to send you the whole county. It's going to get so confusing, and you're going to feel overwhelmed. So you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. So to sum it up, it just seems like you need to know what you want.
Yep.
Need to know where you want to be at, and need to know what you can afford.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good summary.
Yeah, and work on that credit.
Yes, work on your credit. But even if you're confused on what you should work on, contact the proper professionals to help you understand that before you start paying people. Because I've had people do that, pay for credit repair, didn't even need it.
Yeah. Well, Sheena, it's been quite interesting. I've learned a lot today that I did not know, and I thought, a little bit of hope was gone since I've hit that 60 mark. So now I got a little bit light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, you're fine. No, I've helped people way over your age all the time. So you are totally fine. No, what I think I was telling you before is the pickiness, because usually when we get up in age, like we really know what we want. Like, so it's, and the flexibility on that usually is not like we're not willing to be flexible. I'm not giving this away. I want this, I want that. And then it's just finding that particular property.
Right.
But age is definitely not a factor. Then I've had some people want to buy because they want to leave something to their children. So yeah. I've heard that sometimes. So it's so many different scenarios that when you get into the senior age, if you're leaving property to your children or that type of thing, you want to do that, you could. Okay. I would advise purchasing it in a trust and you doing that, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's protecting the property that you purchased, right?
Correct. And then for your kids, if going into this is a property that I want to give to my kids when I leave this earth, and you don't want them going through probate, having it in a trust will protect. So now they're the trustees of the trust account that your house is in. So you're not having to go to probate court. You're a trustee of the home. So that's kind of how that kind of helps protect the seller if they happen to pass away.
Okay, everybody. Well, if you don't understand real estate tonight, I don't know what to tell you, because Miss Sheena then broke it down from the A to the Z for you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to contact us. So give the audience your information, Sheena, right quick.
All right. Well, my website is Sheena, and my name is on the screen, SHEENA, Sales SELLS.com. So SheenaSells.com. You can find me on Instagram at Sheena Sales. Facebook, Sheena Baker, real estate broker. You can find me anywhere. If you Google my name, I'm going to come up. So, follow me on any of those channels and send me a message. And if you go on my website and you do a contact, it'll come to my email and then we'll respond that way.
Okay, and also I've added her to the bottom of To a Woman's Heart website. So if you don't remember all this information, go to a Woman's Heart website, go to the bottom of the page, and Sheena is right there. You won't miss her.
Thank you. Thank
Her
you.
business card is there. So for those who's looking to buy some property, make sure y'all contact Sheena. For those who looking to sell some property, make sure you contact Sheena. If you know anybody want to do either or, make sure you contact Sheena.
You covered all bases. Thank you.
I covered all bases.
This has been fun.
And I do thank you for educating us on
Oh, no
this
problem.
evening about real estate. Because like I said, I've learned a lot tonight. Things that I didn't know. And I hope everybody else have taken what you said and can apply it to their plan for their future when it comes down to real estate. And again, if they don't understand, they can always contact you, and you can walk them through. And the most important thing I say when it comes down to a doctor, a dentist, an eye person, real estate, you need to trust the person to whom you're working with, and you also need to feel comfortable with the person to whom you're working with. Because if you don't feel comfortable, you feel like that person has your best interest at heart, it's not going to work.
No, it's not. It's not. That's a big key, and especially right now. So it's a lot of buyers realtor hopping because they feel like their realtors aren't finding them properties. And they could have a good realtor or not. I don't know. The situations are different. But sometimes right now it's just very tough because it's low inventory. For me, how I spend my evenings is looking up coming soon properties. So even though you may not see everything your agent is doing, if they are a good agent, they're working behind the scenes. They're trying to find you property that you don't even know about. So it's a lot of stuff that goes into it, not just showing up to a property. My team, if you select something that's interested when we send you property, I'm on the group text going back and forth as I drive so much, where my team will say, hey, you picked, 123 Apple Street. Just letting you know that property is sold as is. It's also in the floodplain. Are you still sure you want to see that property? Oh, no, I missed that part. Like, we don't just show homes. Like, our point, we pull up the disclosures. Hey, the disclosures state that this property has had some water damage. Did you see that? No, I didn't see that. So, like, you got to work with a team that's going to catch the stuff that you don't see, because we don't just run out and show you a property. Like, we got to make sure it fits. Hey, did you run the calculator on that one? Because we think that it's going to be above your max payment of $1,700. Oh man, I didn't run the payment. Can you ask the lender for me? Yep, ask the lender. The mortgage would be $2,300. Oh well, that's way out of my budget. So it's so much stuff that we do before we even get to see that property, that you should be working with someone that's doing that for you. I tell people, if you don't pick me, pick somebody that's working. Like you have to, otherwise you'll get in a rut where you're feeling like you're just spinning your wheels.
Right. All right, everybody, hold on, Sheena. This concludes another episode of To a Woman's Heart, where we uplift, motivate, encourage, and empower women. In 2021, we're working on becoming our best selves and walking in greatness. So, all right, don't forget to chime in tomorrow for Wednesday Nuggets. You all have a good one.
Well, that concludes another episode of To a Woman's Heart, where we uplift, motivate, encourage, and empower women. We do thank you for joining. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media outlets. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm asking that every woman would invite a woman. Wednesdays, we will be back at 7:30 having conversations. On Tuesday at 7:30, we are highlighting women in business. And please do check out the website, toawomansheart.com. Let us spread love. We're walking in greatness this year, building, bonding, and believing in sisterhood, working on becoming our better, best selves. Until we talk again.